Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off a 50-cent pick 4 at Churchill Downs on Breeders' Cup Saturday with race number 4, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Let's take a look at this overflow field. We're going 5.5 furlongs on the lawn. $1 million is the purse. We've got the defending champion in this race, that's Stormy Liberal. He was 30-1 when he won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. In the form he's in right now, and that is raging, he won't be that price this year.
No, you won't get 30-1 on this time. He ran a very good race with a really good trip to win this race last year. But you know what? He got into really good form when they concentrated on sprinting on the turf with him last year, and they've just carried on with it this year. I mean, he's run one good race after another. Dan, the shorter distances of these races, they do not work against him. I guess the one thing that you would worry about with him is maybe he's going to catch some off turf on Saturday, and that could work against him.
I think that's a little bit of a concern, but you're absolutely right. Even in the races that he's lost this year, he's fired. In the Daytona, there was no pace whatsoever, and he was coming off a layoff, probably a short horse prepping for Dubai. He ran great in Dubai to only get beat a half length going 6 furlongs. He had a miserable trip in the Jaipur when he only got beat 2. You look at his last 3 races, and just on paper, if you don't watch him, you see nose, head, and you're like, this horse is in just a battle every time. No. Those are very deceptive margins of victory. Drayden Van Dyke's just basically only using hands and heels.
Yeah, he's riding him with a lot of confidence. The margins, you're right, they make him look really close, but they're all 3 races where it always looked like he was going to win, and he did, and he was particularly impressive last time, chasing that horse loose on the lead and closing him down.
He has some familiar foes from the Peter Miller barn that he'll be facing yet again. Miller has a strong hand as well as Jason Service. Let's start with Conquest Tsunami, second to Stormy Liberal last time out in the Eddie D. He beat Stormy Liberal when Stormy Liberal was coming off the bench in the Daytona. This horse seemed to find himself going the 6.5 downhill at Santa Anita. Again, Stormy Liberal was just better than he was last time out, and I wonder if this shorter distance actually works for this horse.
Yeah, I wonder how if the shorter distance actually hurts him a little bit too. I think he's probably better going 6 or 6.5. And I do think, listen, he ran well last time. He got a figure. He won that Daytona when he got absolutely loose on the lead, and he got a figure that day. Otherwise, I think he's going to find this race a little tough.
Richard's Boy, the number 12, also trained by Miller, second in this race last year behind Stormy Liberal, chased Stormy Liberal in Dubai, chased Stormy Liberal in the Green Flash Handicap. And I wonder what that last race was. Was it a prep just to get to here, or was it a confidence-boosting issue for Peter Miller? Because they dropped him in against Calabrese, and he had to carry 127 pounds, but he was 3-10 and he got beat. The blinkers are coming on. He'll be a forward factor.
Yeah, he will. You don't like to see him get beat at a short price like that, leading into a race like this. But I think the pattern's pretty clear that if he runs his best race, he's a contender in here. He ran really well in this race last year out at Del Mar. Now he's going to ship him over here. I think it's a little tough for him, but he's got a good race in him.
So Peter Miller has a strong hand, as does Jason Service. Let's talk about the 4 Vision Perfect, who Service claimed for $80,000 last year, has turned this horse into a graded stakes winner. And last time out in the Grade 3 Turf Monster, he ran into another good turf sprinter in Pure Sensation. He ran just fine that day. He runs well on off-going, and on his very best day, he has run a race fast enough to win.
He does have a figure back there in March at Gulfstream that would give him a chance in there. He had a great trip in that race, but that's sort of him. He'll get that kind of a trip in a race. He's got speed, but he doesn't need the lead. I just wonder if he's quite as good as some of the other horses in here.
One of the most fascinating horses to me on this 2-day Breeders' Cup weekend is the 6 Rainbow Air, because this is a horse that always had ability, but it looked like going into the beginning of this year, he was turning it around and turning into a top turf sprinter. Big win at Aqueduct. So impressive winning that Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint with a 106 buyer. And then after that race, there were words that he was going to be retired. They were going to send him the stud. We thought we'd seen the last of Rainbow Air just when he was getting good. But surprise, he came back in the Turf Monster. He caught a race with no pace off a long layoff. He fired hard late. There were some dynamics against him. His best race, he can win at a price.
Yeah, he's got plenty of figures that give him a real chance in here. And I'm with you. I think he ran pretty well last time, considering the layoff. Pure Sensation got right to the front in there. This horse got out to the clear. He finished very gamely to be gaining ground into third. I liked that performance from him. He's a closing turf sprinter in a race with plenty of pace, and he's a price.
One of those pace sources, the 11 World of Trouble, as a positive formulator fact for Jason Service. We'll take a look at that formulator fact right now. Over the past 4 years, older last out winners, coming off a 45 to 60 day layoff in turf sprints, we got 40% winners. We've got a 339 ROI, and World of Trouble always hinted at ability on dirt. Heck, he was favored in the Tampa Bay Derby earlier this year at a distance that was probably a little bit too far for him, but he has just been dominant against weaker competition in his 2 races on turf in New York. He's going to get probably a little bit of cut in the ground.
Yep.
And if you just believe those Timeform US pace figures for the last race, they were like supersonic red.
Right.
He's a big pace factor with a lot of talent.
He is a big pace factor, and he is a wicked fast horse. So I think you're not going to see them, play any games and change up his running style in here. He's got post 11. They're going to be sending him from the gate in here. I like both of his turf starts just fine. I think he ran really well both times. He dusted that field last time. He is facing a different class of horse in here. That's the real question for him, but I don't deny how good this horse is. I think this horse has a ton of ability.
Because of those pace figures, Timeform US is going to have him on the lead, as we see from that pace projector. He is the number 11 on the pace projector. You have to think that the blinkered Richards Boy will be pushing him early. Conquest Tsunami has a lot of early speed, but maybe if Conquest Tsunami gets this scenario, it's not bad, turning into the stretch perhaps with the lead. Let's talk about Carro, who's just a cool little horse. Won the Grade 2 Woodford for the second year in a row. He's banked close to $1 million in his career, and he's got a good tactical gear, and I like this trip for him that the pace projector has, because he does have enough speed, I think, to just sort of suck in behind the leaders with a chance turning into the lane. Yeah,
that's true. Listen, maybe they'll come running from the outside here. All the speed is outside, and they cross over on him, and I guess that could complicate things, but if he can land a comfortable trip, don't be surprised if he outruns his odds. I think he's going to be a pretty big price in this race. He ran well in the Breeders' Cup last year, though. I think it shows that he can go with these horses. Disco Partner is going to be a very dangerous closer if this pace is hot. He's banked $1.2 million in his career. He went back to form last time out in the Belmont Turf Sprint, and you don't win races as easy as that with a 106 buyer. Usually don't see turf sprints won by large margins. That was a legit 5-length win for Disco Partner. I know that race was over good turf. Are you concerned if this turf course is wet? Yeah, he doesn't really like it with a lot of giving it. I mean, it doesn't have to be, rock hard firm, although he's really good when it's like that. But if it's, soft or yielded, he really doesn't fire over that kind of turf. So that's something to keep an eye on. Otherwise, make no mistake, he just might be the most talented turf sprinter in the field. The real question for him is the shorter distance. It really does. He's more of a 6 or 7 furlong turf sprinter. The 5, 5.5, it's really short for him. You can see he's 1 for 5 at this distance. He ran really well at 5 furlongs in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, but it was a little short for him. He pushed his way out to the clear. He was rolling late, but it was too late. He couldn't get up. 5.5's better for him. He runs his race stand. In a lot of ways, he's the horse to beat. A couple of sharp mares in here taking a shot against the boys. Let's start with the one Ruby Notion, who scored over soft ground in the Caress at Saratoga, then won at Kentucky Downs in game fashion, going 6.5, a distance that might be a little bit far for her. She's got some heart. She's got some tactical speed. She's got the fig on the soft ground 2 starts back, but she's facing some tough seasoned colts. Yeah, I mean, she's just hoping that it's really soft turf, because she obviously acts over that, and maybe some other horses won't. When she won the Caress over really soft ground at Saratoga, that was a situation where, and not to take anything away from her, she ran her race that day. A bunch of horses just didn't run at all in that race. Chanteline was always good on dirt, but it seems like she's found herself now as a turf sprinter. She's won 3 out of her last 4 races, and it's nice that she's been able to relax in some of these races. She was kind of a pure speed on dirt earlier in her career, but as she's gotten older, she has learned to relax. I thought that was a field she could beat last time out in the Buffalo Trace Franklin County Stakes. These are tougher horses, but she's run some fast races. Yeah, she really has. I mean, 2 perfect trips in a row in her last 2 wins, but she won both of those races relatively handily. She got figures for them. They make her look really competitive on paper. I wonder how competitive she is. I think this is a way tougher spot. Michael Maker, we say it all the time, just a wizard off the claim. He finds these bargains. He took Hembry back for $50,000. He's turned this horse into a graded stakes winner. Took advantage of a nice fast pace last time out in the Grade 2 in the Arctic, but listen, Maker just works his magic. We remember what he did with Hoagie. He claimed that horse again and turned him into a nice one. I'm not sure Hembry's good enough to win this race. Maybe a late run for a piece. Yeah, he'll be running late. Listen, it's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. He's going to have a fast pace in front of him. He'll be running late. I was surprised when he won last time, and I'll be even more surprised if he wins this time. Usually when you think turf races on Breeders' Cup weekend, you think Europeans, but the turf sprinters in Europe are usually a step or 2 behind what we have in North America. I think Lost Treasure has the potential to be a good horse, however, for Aiden O'Brien. He's never showed it over there against top-class competition. They put blinkers on for his most recent race on a synthetic track. He sat in behind horses. He tried to bull out in traffic, and he kind of did what he always does. He kind of clunked along to finish second. So blinkers off, Lasix on. You know he's going to get a fast pace. We'll see if Lost Treasure closes. I think there are worst 30-to-1 shots to play underneath. I think a win's a little out of reach. I agree, too. I mean, listen, if he's some kind of big price, what are you going to say? But so far, he just really hasn't found that finish he's going to need in a race like this.
Havana Grays at least won a Group 1 stakes race overseas in France, but that was going 5 furlongs over a straightaway. This colt is yet to race around a turn, and he's run 15 times. He's getting Lasix for the first time. He was 8th in the Prix de l'Abbé last time out, which is sort of the signature race for turf sprinters in Europe, but just consider the third place finisher was a 2-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not, their sprinters over there, as you referenced, they're just not as good as their other horses, so you don't really feel like when they come over here, they hold all the cards. They certainly don't. This horse is fine. He runs every single time. I just wonder if he's facing better horses here.
Can you make an argument that Will Call is a sneaky horse sitting on a big race? Because this is a horse that really seems to appreciate the Churchill Downs turf course. He was rolling late last time out in the Woodford. His first start off a 2-month layoff, which makes me think it might have been a prep run for Brad Cox. Now again, he may not be the best closer in this race, but he has some ability. He's going to be a huge price.
I took a long look at him because he does like this turf course and he will be off the pace, which maybe in a lot of ways is where you want to be. I just wonder if he can outkick some really good turf sprinters. I think he is obviously a good turf sprinter. I wonder if he's this good.
As always, the turf sprint will be a war. Let's take a look at our top selections. I've just been taken with what I've seen from World of Trouble's 2 starts on the turf, and I wonder if Conquest Tsunami doesn't show that sort of speed at this shorter distance that we've seen going 6.5, and if Richard's Boy kind of underperforms yet again, maybe this horse turns into the stretch with the lead and is going to prove tough to catch. He's got some upside, I think, as a lightly raced 3-year-old. You're going with the champ.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on World of Trouble. I threw him into my mix too, just because it's very I'm very interested to see what he does in here. He might just find this too tough for him, but I like his 2 turf sprints so far, and I liked him as a dirt horse too. I went with Stormy Liberal. I actually I chalked it out in this race. Stormy Liberal and Disco Partner, I think they're the 2 best turf sprinters. Listen, they're short prices. They don't have to win or run 1-2, but I think they're both real
Stormy Liberal's versatile running style really
gives
works
him an
for
advantage.
him. A little bit of an advantage over a Disco Partner turning into the stretch. Mike's going 9.56.11. I'm going 11.75.14 in the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, kicking off a 50-cent pick 4 at Churchill on Saturday. And approximate post time is 12:38 Eastern. Best of luck.